The Philadelphia Eagles might be in some major trouble this weekend versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let me explain. The Philadelphia Eagles are coming off of a 15-12 win versus the New Orleans Saints. It was sloppy, but you know the old saying, a win is a win, is a win. And the Eagles needed that win desperately. They moved to 2-1, and as they look ahead to week 4 versus Tampa before their week 5 bye, there's some serious concern as to who the hell is going to be playing wide receiver for this team this weekend. A.J. Brown missed the last 2 games with a hamstring injury, and everything that we know would suggest they're going to sit him and just have him sit throughout the bye to make sure he's as healthy as possible. And beating the Saints last week kind of gives you that luxury. If you lose versus Tampa, you're 2-2 going into the bye with arguably your best skill position player missing 3 games to open the season. But the problem lies with this. The guy who they had as their wide receiver 2 stepping up in the wide receiver 1 role, Devonta Smith, suffered a concussion in that Saints game. In the concussion protocol, usually guys miss a game. Now, Devonta Smith, we'll see the practice reports. We'll see what happens. If he's all good to go, then maybe we don't need to fire up the alarms. But what if Devonta Smith isn't able to play? Then that wide receiver core that I told you guys going into the season I didn't like how thin it was, is even more thin and lacks the superstar talent at the top. Let alone the fact that Britton Covey, the team's, punt returner and a guy who had gotten several receptions versus the Saints and the Falcons, headed to the IR. When we look at this wide receiver room, if Devonta Smith is to not play, it's Jahan Dotson, who, has been fighting just to get a target. Guy's been running cardio out there. Johnny Wilson, who himself is dealing with a hamstring injury. Paris Campbell, who's on the practice squad. That's it. The team will have to bring up some other practice squad guys, but virtually that's it. Expect a lot of 2 tight end sets with Dallas Goedert and Grant Alcantara, and a heavy dosage of Saquon Barkley, and maybe we see some Will Shipley lined up in the slot. But this is the problem with the team's wide receiver core that I told you guys about going into the season. I did not like how thin they were. Now, they did just sign John Ross back to the practice squad, so I do think it's potential that they will call him up. But this is why I was hammering down for this team to go sign a Noah Brown, a veteran presence to have on the team. Yeah, maybe he's not going to play a lot when A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are playing, but in a game like this, you could go out there with Paris Campbell, Jahan Dotson, Noah Brown, John Ross, Johnny Wilson, and feel a little bit better about yourself when you have Dallas Goedert, who's coming off of a career day, and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts lined up back there and their dual threat runability. But without really depth at the wide receiver position, what if they suffered an injury versus Tampa Bay? As well, it kind of makes it a lot easier for Tampa to stack the box. Now, Jalen Hurts, granted, has been better against the blitz this year than he was in that playoff game, that's for sure. But Tampa Bay is going to test him again. And without A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith out there, I'm not sure the receivers are good enough to pass the blitz test. It could be a very long day for the Eagles' offensive line and the Eagles' quarterback, Jalen Hurts, if Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are both out. You're really going to depend on Saquon for a lot, and you're almost going to be forced to line him up in the slot if they keep blitzing to just get him the ball quickly in some space. It's going to be an interesting day to see what Kellen Moore can do as an offensive coordinator for this team. You bring this guy in, he is very renowned, known to be so, a great offensive coordinator, an offensive mind, certainly better than Brian Johnson. Well, it's easy-ish, I should say, to scheme when you have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Saquon Barkley and Goddard and Hurt. But what happens when those guys aren't healthy? Let alone the fact that Lane Johnson might not play too, because he's in concussion protocol. Now, Fred Johnson did a pretty good job, I'm going to be honest. So, we'll see what happens there, but I don't know. This is starting to worry me. What will the Eagles offense be able to do? They already struggled to move the ball against New Orleans. And I guess I shouldn't say they struggled to move the ball, but they certainly struggled to finish off drives. Are they going to be able to finish off drives against Tampa Bay? Especially if they don't have a Devonta Smith? I don't know. The Eagles, going into the season, I was pretty unhappy with their early bye. But Devonta Smith banged up, Lane Johnson banged up, A.J. Brown banged up. A week 5 bye almost can't come soon enough for the Philadelphia Eagles at this point in time. But let me know in the comment section, If you were the Eagles offensive coordinator and Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are both out, what's your game plan versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? If you love the Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I will catch you guys next time.